Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of TJ Plays with some AI stuff. In this edition, I'm going to continue on talking about the Figma Console MCP, and it seemed like in my last video there were a lot of folks who are interested in the write capabilities to Figma, and I want to dig a little bit further into that. So, hey Claude, can you see what project I have in Figma right now using the Figma Console connector, and tell me a little bit about it? So I just want to establish the connection. You don't have to do this, but I like to just confirm that I can see it before I give it like this really long, extensive prompt. And then it says, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. It's rare, but it just helps to ask this one little piece before you get too far into it. Also, I asked it to tell me a little bit about it. It doesn't have to tell me a little bit about it, but it is. So this is basically what I was going to show you. So there is so it's called Figma Console MCP component. You can see that over here. And there's one current page right there. There it is, autonomous button. I just modified this. So this is all the stuff that's in there. The only thing that's different about it is that I loaded it up with variables. So we have a pretty extensive variables table in here. It's got 2 modes in it. And then some of the cool demo stuff that I want to show you is based off of this. So this is what I'm going to do here that I think is one of the coolest parts about this. Can you please reference the Design Systems Assistant MCP for best practices when creating a basic design system button? I'm looking for what are the best or what are the the often used states and variants and other metadata associated with buttons. When using something like AI with MCP, you can stack these MCPs on top of each other and then allow the AI to kind of sift through and then leverage the information that it just obtained through various MCPs. So we use the Design Systems Assistant often just to make sure that we use it for auditing tools for projects that we have. And we also use it for ourselves when we're creating our own design systems. So using the Design Systems Assistant, it goes through, and then this is the knowledge base that it just came back with, and you can open up these, and it gives you the information that it's going to be used later on to create this button. So here's some best practices that it found from the literature that's stored within that MCP, and then this is very extensive. I don't know if we want to get all of this stuff in there. So what I'll say is, wonderful. This is a lot of great information. What I would love for you to do is leverage the Figma Console connector and then generate a component and all of its variants based on a basic version of what you've just supplied for me here. I'd love for you to use the project's variables table to apply all the values associated with it and then ensure that we are arranging the component set accordingly. So what I just told it here is take what you just learned, grab all that information that the Design Systems Assistant just passed, basically just stored all the knowledge that the AI obtained, and use the Figma Console MCP to then pass that information and knowledge back in, package it up, and then execute it on the Figma side of things. So this is where the cool stuff starts happening. So it grabbed kind of a basic version of what I asked it to. Otherwise, please try this for yourself. The only reason I'm doing it this way is because this demo would take longer than 15 minutes, and I don't want it to take that long. So it's digging through, it's looking at variables, it's doing some execution. If we go over here, we could probably start seeing some things happening. You'll probably start seeing some stuff populating this page in a second, but it looks like it's doing some thoughts right now. While it's doing this, I just wanted to address a couple of concerns that I had about a comment or two in my last video. And some of them were along the lines of, why would I use this MCP when I can just manually go in and edit a variable value, or I can add manually a property? And I think that's great. And yeah, you can, but I think the whole point is missing here. I think the idea is that we want to use tools like this to both educate and then automate. it's important for product designers or just people who are new to design systems in general, who are very well versed in AI, or able to use these tools and be able to learn from them. So this is what it just created, which is it's a comprehensive button component set. There's a little funkiness with the size of the buttons, but let's see where we're at now with this. So it's going through and it's capturing a screenshot. Let me shrink up this window a little bit so we can see both. I'll move this over. So it goes through and then it's capturing a screenshot. So it's kind of like this self-healing loop. So it says it's complete, but I'm going to say sometimes it gets caught up and it's not knowing whether or not the design is the right design. So I'm going to say, I don't know, the buttons are looking a little square to me. Would you mind reviewing that screenshot so that way we could make these more standard button sizing and dimensions? So what might help here is if you had another MCP or something else that you could leverage here that was like a UI, UX design MCP that could be involved in this process too. So it takes a screenshot, it would pass it to that MCP, and then it would then make the call and say, okay, this obviously these are squares and buttons usually aren't squares. That's kind of an odd thing to do. And then that normally would be addressed within that loop. So now it's going through. Now it's finding its flaws as it will, and then this should go through and then figure out where the issue is and then update it. The Figma execute is the magic function here. It's the one that ties it all together and does such a great job of using the other tools within the MCP to explore and validate and then confirm and execute. So it does a really good job of ensuring that whatever it's producing, whatever it's applying to these pages are quality and to the expectations of what we have. So while it's doing that, it looks like it's still going to go through it's taking a screenshot to see where it's at. It's saying the proper button proportions are in there. That's great. But it does look like it's missing the labels in the other parts that we want in there. I'll say it looks like they're arranged, but you might want to do the arrange component set to add the frame back in the labels. It looks like it's missing that piece. While it's working through that, we can show you some of the buttons, and then here's the properties that it added to it. And here we go, and just popped it right in. And so we'll go back to where that was. Here we go. And so it added these properties in there. Here are the labels and the buttons. And then when we zoom in to the button, you'll see that it is using variables that come from the variables table. And these are the variables that are all throughout the variables table, which is great. All right. So cool. So now we just design these buttons. So let's take this one step further and say, all right, these look great. Now, can we please develop these? And because we're developing these within Claude, let's make sure that we're adding the inline CSS in the file that you create. So sometimes Claude, when you're developing things inside Claude Desktop, when it creates that artifact, it might end up generating the CSS as a file. And then when it links it in the head, it doesn't link it properly. So when you want to view it through Claude, it doesn't actually display correctly. This time it looks like it's going with React, which is fine. So like while this is happening, what I'm showing you is like, I queried a best practices MCP to give me all the knowledge about this particular component or any component that you're building. So it is smart in the way that it's executing this component on the Figma side of things. So it's got that knowledge that's building into these components there's a variables table that has all of the variables that we know that we wanted to leverage when we're designing these components and all of the variants. Now we've already confirmed that that looks good visually, and I've also confirmed from the metadata side of things that all of that is in place too. Now we want to build it. Now it's ready to build. There's a couple of other things that I probably would have done if we have more time with this demo, and it would have been to add a description here to make sure that this is filled out, and just to sew up all the ends of the Figma design side of things before moving on to the development side of things. But just for the purposes of keeping this demo as short as possible, I just wanted to breeze through some of this stuff. The part that I really wanted to mention here was that this is this MCP is a piece that lives between your design and your development. You can always take this back to your design side of things, make changes there, and then re-import them back into your design side of things. This is a theory that I have, and we can just kind of go through this for a second and say, look, this is all of these buttons, all of these, everything that's just been generated. It shows React for this. Obviously, this is using Figma Console. It doesn't have to be React because it'll treat this. It could make this in Angular, Twig, or any other framework that you like. But these buttons are it even went extra and added a loading state to these, which is wonderful. But these are identical to the ones that are created here. It even added a dark mode for it because sometimes Claude just loves to go extra. But these are the same buttons. And if we wanted to look at some of the code in here, we can go and look at how the CSS was set up, look at some of those variables that were in there. And these should be exactly in line with the name of the variables that were on that is on the Figma side. So I think this is a really important thing to call out here. The way at which design systems are starting, I don't know where. It's almost as though with a tool like this, or where I see the future of design systems, depending on your organizational structure and the skill sets and experience of the people within that group, the main thing that you really need to start a design systems is a well-architected token system. I think if you have a really well-architected token system and you start with that, you could move directly into development based off of that, or you can move directly into design and then noodle on the design and then do like I just did and then bring it into development. Since I'm doing this in Claude Desktop, you're only seeing it in this type of interface, but normally this would be happening in an interface like Storybook, where it would have access to reference other components and then things, because we want to actually make the style of development of the way that we build these TypeScript files or whatever language we're building them in be in line with the way that the other existing components are. So anyway, I hope this helps bring some of this home and then understand the reason for this tool and how it can be wielded to do a lot of really important animations, a lot for wonderful learning experiences, to help with the design to code parity, because this literally is the land that fills the chasm between design and development. All right, thank you all, and I'll see you next time.